I'm so excited to have her here tonight and welcome her to Scott County. And I'm so excited for you to hear from her, so I don't want to take up any more of her time. So please help me give a warm welcome to Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Hello, Scott County. Oh, let me begin by thanking the Scott County Democrats, the state leadership, the volunteers, the organizers, everybody who's here today who is taking part in our democracy. Thank you all for all you're doing. Powerfully important. So I'm here today because we have reached a critical moment in the history of our nation. The decisions made from this moment forward will determine who we are as Americans. And our choices couldn't be clearer. Are we going to be an America that hands everything over to the rich and the powerful? Or will we be a nation that fights for working families and builds opportunity for everyone? I'm in this fight because I believe that everyone deserves a chance to build something they can be proud of. I believe in an America of opportunity, and that is why I'm running for President of the United States. Now, for me, this fight is personal. I grew up in Oklahoma on the ragged edge of the middle class. My family didn't have much, but we had each other. I have 3 older brothers, all of whom went off to join the military. Me, I am what used to be called a late in life baby. My mother always just called me the surprise. Now, my family didn't have much. My daddy, when we were growing up, sold lawnmowers and fences. He ended up as a maintenance man. And my mom got a minimum wage job at Sears answering the phones. All 3 of my brothers, to this day known as the boys, went off to the military. But I had a different dream. Since 2nd grade, I have known exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for America's public school teachers? Oh man, it's what I wanted. Even from the time I was little, I used to line my dollies up and teach school. I just want you all to know I was tough but fair. So, to be a teacher though, you needed to go to college. And to go to college, you needed money. And there was no money. So I knew from early on that this was going to be an uphill battle. I needed a scholarship. Now, my grades weren't perfect. I was not an all-star quarterback. I couldn't play in the band or head up the cheerleading squad. Nope. I just had one thing going for me, one thing that came to me as natural as breathing. I knew how to fight. Now, not with my fists, but with my words. I was a high school debater, state champion, in fact. So we got some debaters out there, you bet. So I searched until I found a school that gave out debate scholarships, and I saved up my babysitting money to pay the application fee for college, and I hit the jackpot. I got in, and I got a full scholarship. So there I was 17 years old, and I had never been north or east of Pryor, Oklahoma. And I was headed to Washington, D.C., as a proud member of the George Washington University debate team. Woohoo! A whole new world opened up for me in college. And my dream came into sharper focus. I would be a special needs teacher. I was doing well, and it looked like I was on track. And I had just turned 19 when my world turned upside down again. The first boy I had ever dated, and the first one who ever dumped me, dropped back into my life. And he proposed. So I did what any sensible, mature 19-year-old would do. I said yes in a nanosecond. And there went my dream. I dropped out of school, I moved to Texas, set up an apartment, and I took a job answering phones. And I figured that would be my life. A good life, but not my dream. And then I heard about the University of Houston. It was a commuter college. It was about 45 minutes away. And here was the stunner. It cost $50 a semester. This was an education I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job. So I saw that chance and I held on for dear life. I made it through to graduation. I became a special needs teacher, and yes, I have lived my dream. That was it. Now, special needs teaching is truly a calling, not a job, and I probably would still be doing it, except by the end of my first year in teaching, I was visibly pregnant. And the principal did what a lot of principals did back then. Wished me luck, showed me the door, and hired someone else for the job. So here I am, I'm at home with a baby, and I get this crazy idea of going off to law school. So eventually, I packed up the baby and headed to a state law school, which, by the way, cost $450 a semester. I then graduated, also visibly pregnant. You will discover a pattern to these stories. And I practiced law for 45 minutes. And then I headed straight back into my first love, which is teaching. I lived opportunity. My daddy, he ended up as a janitor, but his baby daughter got to be a public school teacher, a college professor, a United States senator, and a candidate for president of the United States of America. That's what a good public school education can do in America. Now, I believe in an America that has opportunity for every kid. But America today is just not living up to that promise. Today, Washington works great for those with money and power. Washington works great for giant drug companies, just not for people who are trying to get a prescription filled. Washington works great for-profit colleges that prey on low-income students and leave them drowning in debt. It's just not working for young people fighting to get an education that can give them a brighter future. Washington works great, fabulous, for corporate executives on Wall Street who buy one tax loophole after another. It's just not working for families trying to make it paycheck to paycheck without getting ripped off. We have a government that works great for those with money and power, great for those who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers, but not for anyone else. The rich and the powerful have rigged our political system. Look at any major issue in America and you can see the impact. Student loan debt, the crushing cost of health care, the fact that oil companies have more say at the EPA than people who see the destruction of climate change bearing down upon us. When Washington works only for the wealthy and the well-connected, that is corruption, plain and simple, and we need to call it out. Now, today's kids, they have dreams too. Teacher, nurse, farmer, social worker, computer programmer, game designer, climate scientist. But their stories unfold very differently. Some post-high school education, whether it's technical training, 2-year college, 4-year college, has become absolutely necessary for a kid to even get a shot at the middle class today. But that $50 a semester college, gone. Sure, there are plenty of schools, but the prices, even at state universities, are through the roof. And that's because the states have not invested enough in higher education. Instead, government has said to students, just take out loans, and shifted the burden to families. Look at it here in Iowa. About 20 years ago, families covered 35% of the cost of public college through tuition. By 2016, families have to cover 60% of the cost, one of the highest rates in the country. And it's only getting worse. Republicans in Des Moines are undercutting their own governor's request for higher ed funding, which will likely force a 5% tuition hike at Iowa and Iowa State next year. And it's not like students can cover all these new costs by working part-time. For students whose parents can't write a check for $85,000, debt is pretty much the only option. Debt and lots of it. For students of color, the story is even worse. Right now, in Iowa, the total cost of college would chew up half the income of the median black family in this state. It is no wonder that more black students have to borrow money to go to college, have to borrow more money while they're in college, and have more trouble paying their loans after they graduate. The road is rough, and we need to acknowledge it. And community college is not the magic bullet here. Attendance costs are only marginally lower than they are for four-year colleges. Students are simply stuck. They can't afford to go to college, but they can't afford not to go to college either. If your parents aren't rich, or if you're not a fabulous football player or basketball player, you're going to need to take on debt, and often lots of debt, to get a college education. I just want to tell you all, so I do town halls. I love to do town halls, and I've done about a zillion. And I always stay around afterwards for selfies. You know, it's just a way to get to meet people, you get to shake hands with folks. But one of the hardest parts of doing this is when a young woman comes up, holds out her hand, and just announces $63,480. Or when a guy stands next to me for a selfie and leans over and says, $47,200. They explain that's how much student loan debt they're carrying. Sometimes a young couple will come up and explain that together they owe over $200,000 in student loan debt. Moms and dads tell their own stories. And I've even had grandmas come up who had guaranteed a student loan for a beloved grandchild who now can't pay, and grandma's Social Security check is being garnished to meet the student loan payments. I meet people who are frustrated. I meet people who are terrified. I meet people who are losing hope. Here in Iowa, 2 out of every 3 college students takes on debt. On average, each student with debt owes about $30,000 that they carry into their futures, with thousands of students taking on far more than that. Collectively across this nation, our students are shouldering $1.5 trillion in student loan debt, more student loan debt than all the car loans and credit cards for the entire country combined. Student loan debt is crushing an entire generation. I say enough. Let's stop crushing people who are just trying to get an education. Enough. And I've got a plan for that. Step one, let's address the student loan crisis head on. Cancel student loan debt for 95% of all borrowers. Yep. Everyone who's not making big bucks. Cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt for everyone who's making under $100,000 a year. That will wipe out, you like that? Yeah. And just so you know how that fits, that will wipe out all of the debt for about 3/4 of young people who owe student loan debt. And if you're making above $100,000 a year, you still get some cancellation, you just get a little less. This will be life-changing for millions of Americans. They can stay in teaching without working a second and a third job. More young people could move back home to the place they grew up, to be nearer to their parents, to move back to the family farm, or to start a small business. And for people who dropped out of school because of the debt load, they can go back to school and finish a degree. And because of the way I have targeted this plan, it will even reduce the racial wealth gap in this country. So that's step one, attack the student loan debt crisis head on. Step two, make sure no future generation ever faces a debt crisis again. And that means investing in public institutions so they can live up to the name of being public educational institutions. I propose making every public college in the country tuition-free. And I propose expanding federal investments so low-income students can get some help on the cost of books and living expenses. I want to see real access. Again, this could be life-changing for millions of people. For the person who isn't even going to try college or technical school because they think they can't afford it, or they're scared to take on that kind of debt, the door is now open. For the family worried about how to pay the mortgage and send a kid to college, the job just got easier. And for America, a better educated workforce will be a boon to our economy and to all of us. Now, I know you don't come to Iowa with big plans unless you know how to pay for it. And I already know how to pay for this. The ultra-millionaire wealth tax. So here's the deal. A 2% tax on the great fortunes in this country. 2%, 2 cents on the dollar for every dollar above $50 million. Your first $50 million is free. I know some of you relax over that. But once you hit the 50 millionth and first dollar, it's 2 cents. And 2 cents for every dollar after that. It's a wealth tax. By the way, anybody in here own a home? You've been paying a wealth tax all these years. It's called a property tax. Same deal here, except this one, it's not just going to be the real estate, it's also going to include the yachts, the diamonds, and the Rembrandts. That's how I want to make this wealth tax work. So we could do this. 2 cents on every dollar above $50 million in wealth. And let me just tell you what we could do with that money. That would produce enough money to provide universal child care, 0 to 5, for every one of our babies. Plus, universal pre-K and pre-pre-K for every one of our 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. Plus, raise the wages of all of our child care workers and our preschool teachers to the same level as public school teachers. Plus, universal college for everyone and technical school. Plus, knock down the student loan debt for 95% of those carrying debt. And still have nearly $1 trillion left over. That's it. I mean, just think about what 2 cents on the dollar. That tells you how far out of whack our economy has gotten. That 2 cents on the dollar for the top 0.1% of fortunes in this country, those above $50 million can produce that kind of revenue. And now, here comes the really fun part. That wealth tax, Democrats like it. Independents like it. And a majority of Republicans like it. This is not a vague pie-in-the-sky promise. This is a plan that we can actually, truly get in place and make a difference in the lives of millions of people in this country. This is what it means to be a Democrat. And with a 2% wealth tax, we could dramatically expand opportunities for every kid across this country. It really is that simple. Now, I'm here because I'm optimistic. I'm here because I believe in what we can do. We are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. If we stand together, if we fight together, if we persist together, no dream is too big, no fight is too hard. Together, we can create a government, an economy, and a political system that builds opportunity not just for a wealthy few, but that builds opportunity for everyone in this country. Many years ago, I nearly lost my dream. I was 19, and I came within inches of losing it all. But I got my second chance at a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. Today, that particular chance is gone. And I wonder, how many kids never make it? How many kids never get to live their dreams? How many never even apply to college? How many make it through school but are so weighed down with debt that they don't take the job they dreamed of? They don't teach school or fight fires or farm the land because they have to manage student loan debt payments. How many? Just think of what our nation has lost. A great teacher, a caring nurse, half the young people in a small town. So count me among the blessed. I got to live my dream. I am running for President of the United States because I want every person to have that same opportunity. Thank you. I'm running to shine a light on opportunity in America. I'm running to make this promise to every single voter that when I am president, if you dream big, if you fight hard, then you can win. If that's a future that you believe is a worthy cause, if that's a future that you believe is worth fighting for, if that's a future that you believe is worth rolling up your sleeves and getting in it, then join us. Text Iowa to 24477. Go to ElizabethWarren.com, pitch in $10, volunteer an hour, help spread the word, because opportunity is just one dream, one fight within our reach. Thank you, Iowa.